I am Lucinda, and this is How I Ally. Welcome to the first new episode of season 2 of How I Ally. We are here with Kris Erickson, but I would love for you to introduce yourself.
So my name is Kris Erickson. I'm a co-founder at Workforce Science Associates, or WSA, and our sole mission is to improve the lives of employees in every organization around the world. And that what that really means is that there's a critical metric that every leader should pay attention to, and it's called engagement. And engagement is the concept of what can managers and leaders do to help their employees want to work harder, stay longer in the organization, and quite frankly, just care more about the work that they do, about their customers that they serve. And we have an index that is validated. We are really proud of the fact that we sit on one of the largest databases of employee research in the world. And right now it has over 10 million respondents. It's a 3-year rolling database. And so that's really rich context and data around what's going on in the psyche of employees. Because as you think about the past 5 years, it's been a roller coaster. And layer on top of that all the improvements and the introduction of AI into our daily work lives. There's so much that employees have to adjust to, pivot about, and just embrace in this new world of work. So that's a little bit about the company.
So, what is it about Gen Z that is so disruptive, seemingly?
It's interesting, and we just released our 2026 State of the Workforce paper, and that's why I was so excited to talk with you today, because a bulk of that paper is really looking at generational differences. And one of the things we know about Gen Z is that they are the newest cohort into the work environment. You know, when you think about millennials and Gen Xers and baby boomers, they've had years of experience in the work environment. And so for them, they've kind of figured out their course. They've kind of charted their career path. And one of the things that we just know is that typically the newest joiners to an organization should have those highest levels of engagement because they applied for the job, they got the job, and it's exciting, right? You're launching into a whole new career. And typically, as we look at our database, those are Gen Zs. What we also know is that that's the group that should be the most engaged. And what we're seeing in our data is that Gen Z are the least engaged as we look at it across generations. And here's why that's really important. Engagement is really about how do I feel about the company, the organization that I work for. And that's important because as leaders, you have to know how many people are in that proverbial boat rowing in the same direction. And so to know that the youngest generation, the newest into the workforce, the newest into their careers are the least engaged, to me is definitely a blinking yellow light. And secondly, we have another critical measure that plays into this equation with Gen Z, and it's leadership effectiveness. And it's an understanding of how do I feel about the person I directly report to, and really critical relationship because that's my lifeline. If I'm working remotely, if I'm working in a hybrid environment, that leader is my lens into the company, the lens into my team, all of that. And what we're seeing there is that with Gen Zs, that's really, really strong. So when you think about it, engagement overall for Gen Z is at 71% favorable. That's several points below the rest of the generations. Leadership effectiveness is at 78%, which is really, really high. And so what I would say to you in terms of what's going on with Gen Z, this is a leadership crisis. That if leaders aren't understanding Gen Z and they're not understanding their wants and needs, then the organization is at risk for them going somewhere else where they can fulfill their needs and have their, have their needs met. So we're definitely concerned about what's going on with Gen Z's experience.
So it seems like they're just, oh, this is a sweeping generalization, but it seems like what's happening is that Gen Z employees are being very outspoken
Hmm.
about how unhappy they are, or just about their needs
Hmm.
and their wants, and that seems new somehow to leadership. Is that right?
Definitely, definitely. And when you think about it, they've grown up being exposed to the world. They're very comfortable being on social media and posting about not only their professional lives but their personal lives. So for them, being out there is just normal. Now, when you think about, and I don't mean to slight any other generations, but as you think about the older generations and workforce, that's just not something simply something that they've grown up doing. And really, if I were a leader managing a Gen Z team or a Gen Z individual, the first thing I would want to know is, what do you want out of your experience at work? That is all about growth and development. And Gen Zers are far less patient about what that roadmap looks like. And so to me, to be a smart Gen Z leader, you have to be able to have those constant conversations about, how are you doing? What do you want to experience next? How can I help you get to that next, that next milestone? And to be crystal clear with them about, here are the steps that we need to take in order to get you there. So things like an annual performance review just doesn't cut it with Gen Z. That they want more of those frequent check-ins. They want to know that you see them, that you hear them, and that you're taking into account, how they're feeling. And so I believe as they become the more predominant group within organizations, human resources and leaders are going to have to rethink how we create their experiences, because one check-in point a year is not going to cut it with this generation. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it feels almost like a relationship or a marriage, a good one.
Exactly.
I mean, it feels like what everyone really wants, but maybe has not been able to say or felt empowered to ask for.
Exactly. Exactly. And I do think that they just have a different relationship with work. And what I mean by that is that as you think about, if you roll the clock back, in my generation, for example, almost my entire career, I went to an office. I physically was in an office interacting with people. And when you think about Gen Zs, they probably entered the work environment remotely because they came into it, during the pandemic. And the things that concern me there is that when you are physically in an office and you are young in your career, you walk into a meeting, but you walk into a meeting 5 or 10 minutes before it starts. What are you doing in that 5 to 10 minutes? You're having conversations. You're getting your brand out there. You're getting your talent, skills, and abilities exposed to a much broader audience. Well, when you're working remotely or hybridly, you don't have that 5 to 10 minutes. You don't have the water cooler conversations. You're not going to lunch with your colleagues. You're sitting in your home office, going from Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting. And so to layer on top of the complexities of what Gen Z wants, I worry about their exposure to people who can help them advance in their careers. How are they building those networks within an organization if we're not having a lot of those interactions? And so, again, if I were a leader managing Gen Z, I would be thinking about ways that we can have those one on one interactions. I would be thinking of ways about how do I help you build that network, build that brand within the organization? Because if I'm not helping you do that, again, the likelihood that I will, as a Gen Zer, will try to find that in another organization, increases immensely. And so I believe it's not only just how do we make their experience better, but we need to equip leaders to manage and lead this generation very, very differently than we have in the past.
That is huge. I didn't even think about that. That's like an enormous paradigm shift. That's like a world change.
It
I
is.
mean, I experienced that for sure, with work I did remotely during the pandemic. The people that I worked with should be some of my biggest, resources right now, and since I never actually met them face to face, that's not a strong connection,
Exactly.
and that's a shame.
Well, and in that database that I referenced at the beginning of our conversation, we collect so many demographics about the workforce. And to kind of continue to peel back that proverbial onion, we also look at Gen Z by gender. We look at it by ethnicity. And what we know is that females, people who identify as females, and more of the underrepresented ethnic populations, their scores are even lower and their challenges are even higher. And so, again, there's just so much complexity that's wrapped up in this generation and how you look at it, that I think really is, as I said, to me, it's this isn't just about how you manage the individual. This is about how organizations are going to have to look at this very, very differently and make those pivots. And I don't know, just from studying thousands of organizations, I don't know if most organizations are equipped to do that right now. I don't mean to be a doomsayer. I'm just saying
Oh,
it's a call to action that they will become the grand majority of the workforce in the next couple of years. And so it really is going to in some cases force us to think differently about how to manage and lead this cohort.
well, I mean, thank God. I don't know. I feel like change is, great, especially, I think when it comes to women and, like you said, people who, face more challenges, and I mean, what I'm thinking about is, family leave, maternity leave, paternity
Mhm.
leave, and then, caregiving responsibilities. Once upon a time, I lost my job because I was spending time caring for my father,
Mhm.
and that was before the pandemic. I would like to think that since the pandemic, that wouldn't happen.
The other piece about our WSA data is that we can look at this by industry. And so I think where the industries that will win more easily with Gen Z are ones where flexible work is the norm. So you think about finance and insurance, you think about high tech, Some of those we're working remotely or in a hybrid environment. If you have an internet connection, you're good. You can work where you want, when you want, how you want. The challenges by industry are when you physically have to be there. If I'm a nurse, I can't care for a patient remotely. If I'm on a factory floor manufacturing automobiles or whatever type of goods you're doing, you physically have to be there. I think those are the environments where it will be more challenging to attract Gen Z into those kind of work environments. So I even believe that there's going to be just that shift, that just the nature of the work that we're asking you to do. I think that flexibility piece is something that Gen Z definitely looks for. So I think that there will be some challenges in industries that physically have to have you be in that type of work environment.
Wow, that is such strong insight. Um, I mean, like working with your hands, doing a trade. Of course, again, I didn't even think about that. That's you know, it's almost privileged of me to only think of, you know, the internet, something you
Mhm.
can do over the internet. Um, wow, man. Well, thank you so much. I am so glad that I got to speak with you. You are so um, smart, and I love speaking with smart women. And just thank you.
Well, thank you. If you probably noticed, I love this. I love thinking about how do you make people's work experience better, because when you do that, I'm a firm believer that you create better human beings. If I have a great experience at work, that transcends the 9 to 5. I'm a better parent. I'm a better partner. I'm a better friend because I have a sense of fulfillment. And that is truly our mission at WSA. We believe that this work, what we do, and really looking at this data and helping leaders, equipping leaders to really manage in a way that fulfills people, does create just a better world. And right now, I say this all the time when I end my talks or interactions. We really need it. We need people to have those really great fulfilling experiences, because there's enough that's going on around the world that is in chaos. And so again, I believe that this is a leadership moment, that leaders really have to step up. And I've long said that management and leadership is a contact sport. And what I mean by that is that this is about getting to know people as individuals, and not just what they bring to work, but their entire person. Because to your point, when you were taking care of your father, if people didn't know that, that affected how you felt every single day. It's a burden. I have experienced it myself. And so just knowing that a leader would have that human connection with you and understand what you're going through really helps you kind of work through it. And as I said, if leaders don't know that and they're not helping, then you're just not having a great experience. And when you don't have a great experience, you can't bring your best work. So that's what we hope to do. That's our mission.
Yes. Oh my God. I love that so much. I mean, being able to be your true and whole self at work is, it sets you free. I mean,
It does. And I've said to leaders all along, people spend more of their lives with you than they do the people they care most about in this world. And if that's the case, then your charge, your mission your remit is how do you make that environment the most fulfilling it can be?
That's beautiful.
And
Well,
I'm
thank
sorry.
you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for asking. As I said, I love talking about this, so I appreciate it. I appreciate your time.
It's it's so important, and I appreciate the I appreciate Gen Z for, for speaking loudly and, you know, it's
Yes,
great.
I agree. All right.
All
Well,
right.
have a good day.
You too.
All right. Bye.
Thank you.